Good evening, and thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you being here. The purpose of what we're here for is to talk about the state of the city being the city of Morgan Hill. I hope you're all on board with that. Gilroy's down the road away. I don't know if they're talking about it. In a word, well, in two words, the state of the city is darn good. Really darn good. So what I'm going to do is review some of the reasons from our past year as to why I think it's so darn good. Tell you about what we do in our retreat. We have a retreat every year where we say, here's where we want to go this year in 2013. What are our priorities? What are our goals? How are we going to accomplish them? So we'll do that, allow you to ask, and hopefully I can answer any questions you have. But the real incentive for this whole thing is at the end we'll open the doors to the cookies and the punch and so I'm going to start with recognitions. I always do that. I usually recognize my wife as the first person, but she is up at working for the county. She's in charge of the Historical Heritage Society, and she's running that meeting. Hopes to get back here before the end, but doesn't know whether she can or not. But here are my compatriots. You can look at them live. You don't have to look at their picture. They're all in the front row, and always recognize them first. Part of the reason that things are so darn good in this city is because of the dedication of the city council. There's nobody on the council that isn't there just to make the city of Morgan Hill, which is a darn good city, even better. That's their motivation, and we work together, sometime collegially, sometime not so, but we all get along, and we all work towards what we think is the best results for the city of Morgan Hill, and I really appreciate my fellow council members. We have the fortunate experience of having had a city manager named Ed Tweez for 13 years. Outstanding city manager. All the fiscal bad times that we got through, he just knew how to do all that. Getting all these facilities built, when we had a redevelopment agency, making that work to the greatest benefit of the city. He was absolutely outstanding, but he retired. Or he's going to retire on March 1st, actually. But replacing him, and here is Steve Reimer, our new city manager. The reason that I'm absolutely positive that Steve Reimer is going to be a phenomenal success is because he was trained by Ed Tweez. So, I mean, it's a carry-forward kind of thing, and it all works. We've also had the very fortunate experience of having 4 years of our city attorney named Danny Wan. Danny also has left us. He left in December to take another job up with the Port of Oakland, and well, we don't know yet. We're in the middle of the recruitment process. In fact, we interviewed last Saturday, and we'll be interviewing some more tomorrow. So that's in process. These are our 2 employees of the year. And I put their picture up every year to recognize not only their outstanding contributions, but they really are a symbol of the employees of the city of Morgan Hill. They stand for all our employees who are just outstanding. And I know it's really, really hard for the management team to select the employee of the year because there's so many good ones to choose from. But this year they recognized Tina Reza, who is in our finance department and has gone through a plethora of auditing experiences with the wind down of the redevelopment agency, and has faced many, many questions about the financial condition of the former redevelopment agency and so forth, and has stood up to all of those and keeps smiling and keeps providing the information, and so she was recognized kind of for that effort. Sergio Warhigi is the person who, at the Aquatic Center, makes it the outstanding facility that it is. He treats the facilities at the Aquatic Center better, I think, than he treats his own house and his own, cleaning the basement and cleaning the garage. You go over to the Aquatic Center, it's just always outstanding. It's just in such good shape. So that was his recognition, is just for continued customer service, and making the place shine as much as it does. So those are our employees of the year, and again, they are representative of all the employees of the city of Morgan Hill, many of which are here tonight. We also want to call out and shout out to our commissions. We have the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Youth Action Council, the Library, Culture, and Arts Commission, and the Planning Commission. Planning Commission meets a couple of times a month. These other commissions meet on monthly or semi-monthly basis. And the Corporation Yard Commission is still in business. It meets once a year, and we hope that maybe next year we won't have to show that as one of our commissions, because we hope that maybe we can put that one to bed. But our commissioners are outstanding, and they are all volunteer. There's no payment for being on a commission. It's all because of the same motivations as I talked about for the city council members. They want to make our community better, and they are willing to volunteer their time to do so, and we appreciate them. Then we have partners. We have so many partners throughout the entire region and the entire state. Here with us tonight, Mike Wasserman, our Santa Clara County Supervisor. Our new partners in fire protection and emergency medical services are here with us tonight also from CAL FIRE. We'll talk a little bit more about them as we go forward, but you see our Tate Tommaso from the Santa Clara County Library, our branch of the library, she's here. And you see, oh, and Dennis Kennedy, our newest representative, the Honorable Dennis Kennedy, who's now on the library. I always should never neglect to say that the heritage of the fantastic city that we have and why we're in such darn good shape is a legacy of Mayor Kennedy's from when he passed the baton to me. He's the one that realized the building of this community center and all the other facilities. He had the vision process that did that, and we owe him a great debt of gratitude and are very happy to see him now on the water board. And you see some of the others. So what I'm going to do now is kind of celebrate some great accomplishments for 2012, last year. What did we do? Well, I've shown this picture the last 3 years. It's a picture of the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's always been the challenge from the first time the governor brought up, let's get rid of redevelopment agencies. So that's the 800-pound gorilla. And I showed this slide last year, this picture, the picture of putting the RDA in the rearview mirror, getting it behind us. We did not accomplish that last year. We are still plugging ahead with the wind down of the redevelopment agency, struggling through to do it, but we will get there, and we will come out just smelling like a rose, I'm sure. We will. It's been very, very challenging, but there are some benefits. You always, I don't know if you saw the movie Silver Linings Playbook. If you saw that movie, there's always a silver lining, right? So you look for the silver linings. We don't get redevelopment money anymore, but because we don't get redevelopment money, which had to be spent in a certain way, we now get 10% of that amount of money with no strings attached. So I look at that as a silver lining. It's not, it's only 10%, it's a mere fraction of what we used to get, but we can spend it any way we want. And the other thing that may come to pass, that we are very hopeful of, is that with the RDA going away, some of the other agencies also get more money. One of those agencies is the Santa Clara County Library System. And so we are very, very hopeful that perhaps the Monday closing of the library can be turned around in the budget for next year for the library. We're going to work on that and hope that can happen. So that's just a kind of a silver lining that is with the wind down of the redevelopment agency. Part of our wind down of the redevelopment agency was the creation of an economic development corporation. Larry Carr is the chairman of that organization, and it has a board of directors that is not the city, it's outside board of director members. And they have taken over the facilities of the downtown, and as a result of that, we were able to open the Granada for the Poppy Jasper Film Festival and for some movies at Christmas time, and maybe just some ongoing things that can be done there to keep things kind of vital downtown. We'll be talking more about downtown as we go forward. This is the recreation of the Morgan Hill Fire Department. It was born in 1906, I guess, when the city was incorporated, and it's back in existence today after being out of business since 1995, when we contracted the entire operation to Santa Clara County Fire. We now contract with CAL FIRE to man, or to person, however you want to say that, Morgan Hill Fire Department. So we have a Morgan Hill Fire Department. We will be back in possessions of the stations and all the equipment and fire engines and so forth. And we have a great contracted partnership with CAL FIRE going forward. There was an election in 2012, and you know, it was kind of a quiet election. It wasn't, you know, very noisy. There weren't a lot of publicity about it. There weren't even a lot of events. But I think we can really look at that as kind of positive. For the city of Morgan Hill, there were 5 people to be elected. 3 of the 5 ran unopposed, and the 2 incumbents that ran with opposition also were elected by a fairly large majority. And we'll get to the statistics later on, but you know, it just kind of underscores that the population is fairly happy with the way things are going here in Morgan Hill. We went paperless. We got iPads. And we now, instead of thumbing through reams and reams of paper at our city council meetings, we have everything right in front of us on the iPads. We have software that helps us call it up and make annotations on it and all those kind of things. Senior staff has also gone paperless with iPads, and we think we're going to save a ton of money and a ton of staff time as well by not having to run off those huge packets. Those packets ran to 600 pages plus sometimes. This is good news. This is really good news. And what it talks about is the effectiveness of our sustainable budget strategy and the luck or the good fortune that we have with the economy playing into it. What the green line, what the blue line shows, the lower line, the green line down to here is kind of the history. And then the blue line is what we were projecting at the time we created the budget last year. So the budget went into effect on July 1st, and we were predicting that we would be down with only about, at the low point in 2014 and 15, we would have 20% of the general fund balance, you know, in reserves. We had a policy called the Sustainable Budget Policy or Strategy that says we'll never go below 15%, and if we get close to 15%, we have to find a way to get back up to 25% within the next couple of years. So what's happened is, instead, with a later forecast that was made in, the forecast was updated in October, thanks Kevin, we found that sales tax was coming in at a much quicker pace than we thought it would. Especially, that's the major contributor to this. There were some other minor contributors. And we now look like we're going to be back up. You see that 2012, 2013 were just a little bit negative for this fiscal year. Okay, but look at 2013-14. That's when it turns around. So before, it wasn't going to turn around for a couple more years, but next year we're looking at getting more income than we have expense for the first time since, I don't know when, quite a while ago. Quite a while ago. So that's really good news. The economy is turning around. Downtown is thriving, especially if you look in terms of the restaurants downtown. We've got a fantastic downtown. We'll talk more about the implementation of the downtown specific plan going forward, but those restaurants are all thriving. I understand somebody did a count, maybe it was Dennis Kennedy. Somebody told me that there are 23 restaurants in the downtown area, 23 places you can eat. they're not necessarily like you eat at bookstore. It's not a restaurant. But I haven't been able to count all 23 of them, but there's a bunch, and they're all good. What's really amazing is they're all good. This is our solar. We implemented the solar at the police department, at the CRC, the Centennial Recreation Center, and at the Aquatic Center. So that's saving us a bunch of money. And I think the projections, or the actual savings, is coming out ahead of what we actually projected. So that's even better news. I'm going to talk about a survey that was done late in the year by the police department. The next few charts are not my charts, they're charts that our consultant put together for the police department. The first one is the opinion of living in Morgan Hill. Morgan Hill is a place to live. 2 says it's good, 3 says it's excellent. So you want to be as close to 3 as you possibly can. And except for Morgan Hill's a place to work, which we need to do more work on now that we know that that's kind of even less than good in people's opinion. We need to do some drilling down to understand why. And that's what this survey did. It's going to point to some areas that we need to do some further work on, but it's also pointing to some areas where we're doing darn good. Did you guys read the San Jose Mercury News this morning? Did you see the front page article where Governor Brown was so excited about the fact that 48% of California thinks that California's moving in the right direction? What about 81% of Morgan Hill people thinking we're moving in the right direction? And we did have a similar question in a survey we did in 2008, so the trend is in the right direction. It's all good. Feeling of safety in Morgan Hill. Here's another one where we maybe see some things that we need to look in further. People feel, about 80% of the people feel fairly safe in their neighborhood during the day. In the neighborhood parks, they're above 70%. Even in downtown, they're above 70% during the day. But when you get to nighttime, things get a little bit iffier. It's down to a little less than 60% and down to about 40% for downtown at night. So there's another area where we need to do some looking at it and get those numbers better. Find out what we need to do. We don't know whether we need more lighting, whether we need more patrol, whether we need this or that, but we'll drill down into that and find out. The rating of the police department overall is about 75%, either good or excellent, and so that's a real positive thing too. Of course, you'd always like to make it better. So that was a very good and encouraging result in terms of the police department implementing their outcome-based strategy and trying to measure some things through surveys to find out what the outcomes are in terms of people feeling safe and so forth. They know how to measure the statistics, but the statistics don't really tell you how safe you are and how safe you feel. So we want to do those. We had an incident last year that was a really a bad situation for the people living up in Jackson Oaks and Holiday Lake Estates. I think about half the houses up there were deprived of water because of a breakage in a pump station up there between Jackson Oaks and Holiday Lake Estates. And this is where the teamwork of the city really showed itself off, and not just the teamwork of the city and the residents, because the residents got in and helped. They passed out door hangers to tell everybody when the water would be off and what they were trying to do to fix it and so forth. So there's some, at the top there's the working on the breakage, and then it's all clear, and then the population comes out and says, thank you, you guys rock. So that was great. Butterfield Boulevard, not quite complete yet. We hope by the end of March, maybe, or somewhere around in there. But you can see that this picture was taken last Friday. We're getting close, and you see the overpass over the railroad tracks. This is 10th Avenue here. This is Monterey here, and this is where it's going to swerve a little, and all those kind of things. So we're getting within throwing distance of realizing that one. Okay, so that's just some. That's just highlights from last year. There were many more. It's a great community. What we do is every year at the end of January, we take a Friday and Saturday, and we come down the hall here. It's not far away, and we get together and say, what are our goals for the coming year? What do we want to emphasize and so forth? And so here we were. This was a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, on a Saturday when we were wrapping up the retreat. We're dividing our presentation of this into 3 different categories this year. What we're saying here is that we got some things that are ongoing. We're not going to have special goals for them because they're goals every year to make the community safer, police and fire. We got to make the community safer. We'll always concentrate on that. We have a strategy, outcome-based strategy that Chief Swing has put together that concentrates on that. We have an environmental agenda that we put together in 2007, and we haven't had the resources through the recession to really put a lot of resource into that, but we don't think it's any less of a priority. It's an ongoing thing that we want to focus on as we go forward. So it's kind of one of those things that will always be there. I've already talked a little bit about the sustainable budget strategy, navigating the waters of the financial things, and that's what's going on there. We've got to stick to that sustainable budget strategy and not lose sight of it and try to take advantage of things or anything like that. And you guys all know what this is, right? I don't think you do. This is our fantastic team of city employees. I bragged about them already, I'll brag about them again. And you can see that they're huddled up as a team. And teamwork of our employees is absolutely flourishing, but it's absolutely vital to increasing customer service and just keeping the city moving forward. And they are really doing a great job as a team. And new city manager Steve Reimer is recognizing that even at each of our city council meetings now, which I'm very glad to see. Okay, a second category are focus areas. These are things that we didn't put any goals together on, but these are focus areas that have to get done. We have to get a city attorney. So we're deep into that process. There's a bunch of acronyms. I apologize for the acronyms. Habitat Conservation Plan, our agricultural mitigation policies, and our work in the Southeast Quadrant. That's ongoing work that needs to take place. It's very much a focus area, and we'll keep going. We're not going to back off, but you won't see it as a separate goal strategy for 2013. The RDA, as I pointed out earlier, it's been a bear to get through. We're still going through it, and we have to get through it. We will. But we're a little bit worried. The next is saying, what else can the state do to us? I mean, the state has done takeaways every year. The takeaway of the redevelopment agency was just one more thing. So we're a little bit leery about what the state might try to do next to take funds away, or to take resources or capabilities away, not necessarily funds. So we got to kind of be in a defensive stance and ready to absorb whatever they may throw at us. And we're not losing sight of that. I do want to talk about this a little bit. It's an ongoing thing. We don't have any specific goals for it for 2013, but this is the general plan update, which is a 2+ year effort. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that's going to happen with that. These, again, are not my charts. These are the charts of the consultant that is going to help us run the general plan update. And one of the basic things that we're trying to accomplish with this general plan update is the absorption of growth control into the general plan in as much as we can possibly accomplish. So we look at the benefit of our residential development control system. Residential development control system. I've thrown a lot of acronyms at you. I worked for IBM for many years, and that's all we did was throw acronyms. Try to explain them all. So that's to preserve that we have, right now, with Measure C, the population cap that's been set is for 48,000 in the year 2020. And so going forward beyond 2020, we want to set population caps that we work towards and make sure that we don't build more housing than that would exceed that population cap. So we want to control the pace of development that way. And we also have competitions. The residential development control system is a competition that takes place usually on a yearly basis. Sometimes it's been on a 2-year basis, but we want to have the notion of getting the best possible projects. High quality, that's the way you earn points through the competition. I don't know if it'll be a competition going forward or what it'll be, but we don't want to lose the capability of getting very high quality development. And we want to get community amenities. We want to get people to contribute to areas of the community. But the problems with the residential development control system, and this especially came out when we went into the Great Recession, it's cumbersome and expensive. We knew that. That's been the case all along. It's very difficult to follow, hard to understand. We have kind of professional Measure C developers in the city of Morgan Hill. They specialize because they know it so well. And if a new developer comes in, he just gets bamboozled somehow because he doesn't quite understand it, or he misses one little deadline or one little rule. And so that's just not good. It's a ballot measure. It's an initiative that got passed. So to change it, you have to go back to the voters. And so when we found that we couldn't really accomplish our goals for downtown in terms of building residential, we went to the voters to pass Measure A, which exempted 500 building units into downtown. So we want more flexibility built into it. And then what happened with the Great Recession was nobody could build. They couldn't make any money by building their projects. Everything they built would lose money because the value of housing went down so low. So they stopped building. And what happened? Over 1,000, I think over 1,200 units got added to the backlog. And I'm running into a lot of people today saying, hey, the city's going way too fast. Well, what happened? All of a sudden it broke loose. It did pencil. It did come out ahead that they can make money. So what they've done is, especially the larger builders who have the advantage of a large amount of leverage because they have very large undertakings in multiple communities, they bought a lot of the projects from the smaller developers because they can make money on them, and they're the ones that have kind of broken this thing loose, and that's why you see so much construction going on now. We're still growing at the rate that we are prescribed by Measure C toward the 48,000 cap. We're not exceeding it, but it's all happening at once because it didn't happen for so many years. And people don't notice what doesn't happen, they notice what does happen. So the proposed approach is to create a new growth management with all those things and incorporate that into the general plan itself, if at all possible. Because it's currently an initiative, to change an initiative, you have to go back to the voters. So we will probably have to do that. We may have to do that on a regular basis just to establish what those population caps are and things like that. But all that will be worked out through the process. There's a whole component in terms of finances and economic development that goes into the general plan. There's a lot of charts on those. I'm not showing those tonight, but that's a huge part of it as well. What I am showing a little is on the land use. We're not thinking that their land use will change very much from what it is currently in the current general plan. We will focus on a few areas that maybe need some concentration, and we will not be focusing on the general plan update on the southeast quadrant, because that's a process that's already in place. So we have to make absolutely sure that when the southeast quadrant finalizes and the general plan finalizes, that they're in sync. We'll make sure that they don't contradict each other and those kind of things, but they'll be kind of somewhat independent. Huge emphasis on public engagement, because for general plan updates, we've always had, every year we have an objective, a goal for the year that talks about more public engagement. It's never been more crucial than with a general plan update. That's where it really comes into play. So we're going to do everything we can think of, use all social media. We formulated a general plan advisory committee that'll be kind of shepherding this along and supporting the planning commission and the city council in sessions that they'll have and so forth. But huge outreach to all citizens. The consultant that we have has used a thing called Open Town Hall that we're anxious to learn about, see what it does for us, but it's a way for people who maybe have to commute every day, and then on Saturdays they're with their kids' baseball teams, and they just don't have time to get involved otherwise, but they can spend 10 minutes online, maybe giving us some input through that kind of thing. Or maybe through Facebook or Twitter or some other things that they already use. We'll try to use all of those techniques. We will have some workshops, but we'll also take advantage of existing community events. The Mushroom Mardi Gras, the Taste of Morgan Hill, we'll probably have tables at those with outreach materials and so forth. So huge emphasis on this. The General Plan Advisory Committee role is kind of shepherd the process along, making recommendations to the Planning Commission and City Council, and also being a conduit to the community so that they help us get the rest of the community involved and sign up for this. And if you ever get a presentation from City Manager Steve Reimer, you will see this. Right, Steve? He's really advertising this. You guys can get involved right now, right today, just by going to that website. We're already on board with it, we're going, and it's all good. So, not hard to forget, it's 2035. That's the only thing you need to remember, Morganhill2035.com. Okay. We did spend time putting together specific goals in specific areas, and I'm going to cover those really quickly, I think. But these are the areas: economic development, youth. We'll start with youth. Engagement. We said that every year we have a goal to get more public engagement. We have some specific things there. Regional involvement is a focus area for us this year. We want to, I think this is one of those ongoing things, but we had some specific things that we came up with to make the organization more effective. And then the infrastructure of the community, the roads and the water pipes and the sewage system and all those things. How do we keep them going? We'll start with youth, and this is a chart similar to one that I showed last year. This was our notion last year when we were still working with the school district, had gotten the school district on board with us in terms of 41 developmental assets, and we were trying to look at ways to push more out in the community, and we made a great job, I think. We did a great job of really getting the assets built in. We have this, another acronym for you, Community Asset Builders, CAB. Community Asset Builders is they meet at 7 o'clock in the morning on the third Friday of the month. And people turn out in droves for that meeting. It's unbelievable at that hour. And talk about how they're using assets and what they're doing. We've had clergy there, we've had schools there, we've had, everybody there. Ron Wolf's been there from the school district very regularly. So that's made great progress, but still the notion of some of these things didn't quite get there yet. So thanks to Councilmember Larry Carr's vision, I think this is a visionary thing that he kind of came up with. He wants to flush this out, really make a go of it. And what he's talking about here, I'm using pictures, but this is for healthcare. There's a movement going forward in the county of Santa Clara that every kid in the county is covered by healthcare, right? Why aren't we standing up and saying, we want to be first in line? Start with Morgan Hill. Let's get that done here first. The arts. We want to make sure that every kid has an opportunity to participate in the arts, that there are plenty of things there. Are they getting the transportation they need? Let's look at that. Of course, recreation is all important. Are we really doing enough scholarships for getting every kid in the city participating in recreation at the level that they want to participate in? Healthy food. Healthy food is a big emphasis. That'll come into our general plan, as a matter of fact. Driving, as kids start driving, are they getting the right capabilities there? Jobs for kids. Jobs for kids are very important. Peggy, we want every kid in Morgan Hill to have a library card. Why doesn't every kid in Morgan Hill have a library card? That's our strategic strategy for the library system, is for every kid, for every resident to have a library card. So let's start with our kids. And then I showed Morgan Hill Police Department, because how can you have a strategy for the community that isn't safe for kids, that isn't And it's not just a reactive keeping safe, this is a proactive keeping safe. And I gotta tell the CAL FIRE guys, we had the Leadership Morgan Hill session here last week, and CAL FIRE representative got up and said, hey, we want to play too. We want to get some kids coming through. We want to educate them and maybe have a junior fire marshal kind of program for them and those kind of things. So those are things that our police department can do and our fire, Morgan Hill Fire Department can do. So talk to Larry more about this. He is really visionary on this and has great ideas. Economic development is on everybody's platter. Every city in California wants to increase their amount of economic development, whatever that means. Well, what do we think it means? We think we need to step back a little on economic development and really refocus the strategy a little bit. Reformulate, I guess, the strategy. We want to concentrate on building our tax base. That's very, very important. So building the tax base is important. But we want to do it in a way that we don't sacrifice any quality of life for our residents. We want to build that. And we want more jobs here in Morgan Hill. So that kind of is the platform, I guess, of the strategy that we want to build. But then we also had some specific things we wanted to look at. We have over on Dunn, we have an empty building because a pharmacy moved across the street and built a new structure. And we want to find out ways maybe that we can not have empty structures in the city. How do we control that better so that a major anchor tenant of a shopping center isn't vacant? We've had those problems before, and I think many of you remember them. There's also some older shopping centers within the community. This one right diagonal from us, but there's others that maybe we need to look at some revitalization and things that we can do there. And then coming right along with this is housing. And the big challenge for housing, the big goal, is to figure out where we can get affordable housing dollars, really, money that we can spend for affordable housing or other resources where we can do things to make sure that our low and very low income earners are housed in the city of Morgan Hill. That's always been something we've been very proud of. We've done a lot with it with our residential development control system. We've done a lot with it with having allocations set aside just for below market rate units. But we've always had the vehicle of redevelopment, which had a 20% of the redevelopment money set aside just for affordable housing that we don't have now. So that's where we need to backfill and find new ways to go. I did want to talk about one building that's been empty for a while, and there's something going on there. There's a great deal of interest. A conditional use permit was issued last week for that building. So we are hopeful that a sale will go through and that that Hospira sign soon gets replaced with a sign that says Shoe House, which would be a major headquarters, distribution facility, and that kind of thing. So that's something that hasn't happened yet, but we are very hopeful that they did get their conditional use permit, so we can talk about it. We talked about a goal that talked about getting the community more engaged and celebrating our diversity more. And we've got a few things going on there. We want to look at neighborhoods. You know, I remember when I first got elected in 1998, the neighborhood homeowners associations not only were fairly strong in terms of community involvement, not just running their homeowner, but they also met with other homeowners association, were kind of a force. I went out and campaigned strongly to them because they were a force within the community, and that seems to have gone away. And maybe through more creation of neighborhood synergies, we can bring that back and create more engagement that way. We want to look into, this is about the limit of my Spanish, unfortunately, but we want to look into Spanish translation, maybe for the agendas for the city council meetings, maybe for the recreation guide that we publish and some of the things like that. How can we get more going there. 2 years ago, we had a diversity event. It was called Beyond the Sound Barrier, and it was a very successful event. Those are some pictures from it. We want to bring that back. We want to involve some of our youth. Maybe the youth, the ACT is very excited about maybe participating and getting that going again. We weren't able to put it on in 2012, but we want to bring that back this year. We started something that started last night with the Teachers Aid Coalition. Here's another bunch of acronyms for you. Sorry about that. But I think AAUW, American Association of University Women, this is for the YMCA, Community Solutions, Kiwanis, Downtown Association, Chamber, Rotary, Gavilan College, Morgan Hill Historical Society, Community Law Enforcement Foundation, the Volunteers in Policing, and the Teachers Aid Coalition. These are examples of organizations that we have invited, and there's, the list is 28, 29 long, and I'm sure I left others off, but we've invited them to come in front of the council so that as we have the youth now presenting our asset of the month to us, we'll have these organizations coming in and spending 3 minutes saying, hey, here's what's going on in my organization. Here's how we are making Morgan Hill better, so that we're all working to make Morgan Hill better. And just kind of feature them and make the community aware of what's going on there. One other thing, we are kind of reconstructing the council chambers in the old city hall, and that's an opportunity. I don't know whether this portrays it properly or not. But there's an opportunity to better engage the community through the more modern technologies that are available today. You know, maybe we could take straw polls of people at home by pressing their remote controls. I don't know what these are, but our staff is looking into it as we go forward with the remodeling of the council chambers to find out, how we can engage the community better. I showed you an earlier chart that had many of these organizations. There are so many, and here again, I had to put it separate because I know I've left many off, but we have so many outside organizations, and we are learning as we go forward how important our participation, not only participation, but our leadership in those organizations is. We are more regional centric every day. It's just more and more important as we look at transportation, as we look at some of the environmental considerations. The libraries, the artistic, I guess, kind of considerations. The planning that ABAG's involved in and so forth. ABAG is the Association of Bay Area Governments. We've got to be involved. We've not only got to be involved, we have to take leadership positions, and we've got to make sure that our resources that we're spending as part of these organizations are in line with our priorities as a city and as a city council. So that's going to get a little focus as well. In terms of effective organization, one of the fundamentals there is being as transparent as possible. So we're focused on that as we look at everything. But we want to get our commissions that we talked about together. The Planning Commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Library, Culture, and Arts Commission. We want to get 1 or 2 representatives from each of those bodies, as well as myself and one of the representatives from the City Council, to form kind of a sub-task force to see if we can look at the work products that they are planning to do and make sure that we are doing that in a way that aligns with our council goals and supports them in the most effective, I guess effective is the word on the chart, the most effective way possible. So step back with our commissions, make sure that when they come up with it, they've been coming up with work plans every year, and we kind of bless them, but we don't really sit down with them and work through them with them. And I think it's very important for us to go through the process that they go through, kind of right along with them, and make sure that the process is working to give us effective results. Another area we wanted to concentrate on is put the spyglass on our contractual process. Make sure that it's consistent, that we're not doing some things one way for one contract and another for a different contract, and those kind of things. We want to get some consistent guidelines going there. I think they are pretty much already very consistent, but there's been a couple of instances where where things have maybe slipped a little, and maybe by re-examining that, we can tune that up a little. And then we talked about infrastructure. The road is obviously at the top of the list in terms of infrastructure, and we do have a study going on our roads. Larry, this is Wright Avenue. Larry and I both access our properties off Wright Avenue, so we know that that one has got a few problems, but it's just, I know there's areas like this all over the city. We don't want potholes, we want the nice straight roads, we want to make sure that we have the capabilities of doing that. Equipment replacement. It's not just maintaining the facilities, but, you know, getting everything that makes them work, like this microphone or whatever, you know. We have to keep our equipment up to date, new computer systems, new gauges, and all that kind of equipment. We want to understand, and we've asked our staff to come forward with the budget, when they come forward with the budget this year, to make sure that we understand what the consequences are if we don't fund infrastructure replacement fully. What risks are we taking when we underfund? We probably will underfund because we don't have any choice, because we don't have the resources to completely fund. But we want to get a better feel for what the consequences of that are going forward. And then every time I give the state of the city, and I've given it how many times? 6, 7 times now. 6, I think. I spent a lot of time talking about flood control, so I decided I would not talk about flood control because Dennis Kennedy's going to fix it all in there. Yeah. We were promised in the 60s that we would get flood control, and we still don't have it. So that's kind of the status, and we've been working and working and working through all of Dennis's years and now all of my years. And where we are currently, I won't go into a lot of detail. Where we are currently is we have a strategy to get flood control funded. We've got capabilities through the Water District having passed Measure B to fund a lot of that and get it started. But to get the federal funding and the money to buy the properties for flood control, we have to complete a study. And the study is called an LRR, which is another acronym, I apologize, Limited Reevaluation Report is what it stands for. And so the Water District very, very graciously and very, very supportively has stepped up and said, we'll pay for that. Here's the money. They passed the money out of their budget to do that study. We present that to the Water District and the Corps of Engineers who are involved in that process, and the Corps of Engineers comes back and says, don't hand me the money. I've got to go through a 13-month process to be able to accept the money. And that's where we are right now. We're trying to squeeze that down. We're putting strategies in place to find a quicker way for us to give them money, if you can believe that. So that's the current status of flood control. It's very much a goal. It's very much within our sights. I'm just not spending a lot of time on it tonight. Infrastructure, again, some other things we're looking at. We've had a goal for about 2.5 years now to purchase land for ballparks, softball, baseball. We think that's a definite priority, and we're going to accomplish that. That's a goal for this year, not to keep it in our sights, but to get that one accomplished, get it done. We also, we're very fortunate in this community to have a lot of trails already. The Water District, the new trails along the creek by the freeway and so forth. But there's always opportunity for more trails. The trail up El Toro, other things that we can do, maybe other places. So we're going to look at possibilities, probably with our Parks and Rec Commission, for expanding the trails. And then with the work that's going on, or will go on, with Lake Anderson to make it earthquake-proof, I guess is the word. We want to be on board with that. We have a partner with Dennis, and we will be on board with what they're doing there to understand what the consequences are to our residences and to keep us all in sync and make sure that everything's going to work for everybody. So we're That's really a water district project totally, but it impacts our citizens so much that we think we need to stay on top of it. So that's the areas that I just covered. Those are our goals going forward. I do want to review, because we never lose sight of this. We do have an ethics policy within the city of Morgan Hill. We ask every employee, every council member, every commissioner to sign off on it every year. It is important. It covers these areas: honesty, fairness, respect, responsibility, and loyalty. And also, ethics is just a basic part of what I feel, and I pitched this as part of previous State of the City presentations. I have a lot of background going into this, but what I feel are the community values that we always weigh ourselves against also. Are we caring and supportive? We are a caring and supportive community. As we saw with the water outage in Jackson Oaks. We care, we value, we very much treasure our seniors and our youth in this community. We try to build that asset of being a caring community for them. Safety, of course, is always a primary objective. Healthy activities and recreation come into this community. That when Mayor Kennedy did the visioning process back in the mid-90s, everybody said, we want more recreation, we want more recreation. We're going to expand with the softball fields and still do more there. Highly ethical from our ethics policy, and I think that's a value that our community weighs us against when they go out to see what they're voting for and so forth. That we are tolerant, that we are respectful, that we're civil to each other, and that we have ownership of our community. We have pride that we have such a great community, and we own that. All of us own that. It's the city council that maybe gets credit for it, but it's everybody within the community that adds to that and is part of it. So, that's what I have. And if there are any questions, I'll take them.
But now that we're all in the same room, as a student of Best Class Ever Leadership Morgan Hill 2013, I would like to thank all of you guys last Friday for taking your time out of your really busy days to come and share with us the things that are going on with our police department, our fire department, the city leaders, the new city managers, the council people. I mean, where else can you have an experience like that in a town in California? It was amazing. Also, I had always wondered why we didn't have a middle school, high school program for like a junior CERT program, that the community emergency response team, maybe have a couple of kids from every class or high school get involved in being able to recognize triage emergency situations if they happen to be on their school grounds. So if that's an idea out there, but mostly I'm really grateful for all the time you gave us last week.
Okay, we do have a city school liaison committee that can put that on their agenda. I think you're just reflecting the pride and ownership that people don't sign up for the leadership class because they don't care about the community. They care deeply about the community. They wouldn't be in the class if they didn't. They have the pride, they have the ownership. It's almost our duty to take our time to train them. Absolutely.
I think I felt classmates still the same. It was remarkable. Yes.
Any other questions?
Steve, what is the yearly quota for new homes in Morgan Hill? You mentioned by...
What you need to do, it's a very complicated formula, it's part of the complication, but what you do is you say what the current population is, you say what is already allocated to other allocations in terms of number of households, and then you multiply that by a factor that says how many people live in the household, and of course that varies, and then you do all that. What it has traditionally come out to, and what people have always reflected, is about 250 units a year And it's because of things that have happened and variations that happen over time. I think we're down to like 230 or something like that. I don't know the exact number. But I think between now and 2020, if we actually went to the end of the growth period, it'd be about 220 units a year. Anything else? You guys want cookies, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. One more thing, I do have handouts. I forgot about the handouts, but I do have a summary of our goals and strategies for the year for anybody that wants to. Okay.